Hello everyone. You guys have been asking some great questions, and one of those is why on earth would people lie to us about the shape of the earth and how it moves and all of these things that seem insignificant. And the shape of our earth really is not that big of a lie. It's pretty well done. They've done a good job convincing us all that we live on a spinning ball, but that's not really why I'm here and made this channel in the first place. And I want to take you on the journey that I went down that answers the question why. It's very simple, it's very easy, and there's scripture to back that up, and we will go over all of that, so stay with us, and I will start out with what led me to this journey in the first place, and that is evolution. Because I taught evolution, I still am required to teach it as if it has been proven fact, not allowed to question it, and I saw all sorts of different proofs growing up, and they really shaped my mind. Not that I believed any of them after I, found truth, but these things, you've probably seen them, like these pictures of these embryos. And they were drawn over 100 years ago, and were admitted to be a hoax over 100 years ago. And they're still in textbooks today, and they show how similar we are to other organisms at early stages, because after all, we're all part of one big family tree, they say. But it's hoaxes like this that got my wheels turning as to what else are they lying about. And so I saw the evidence and the proof that it was a huge lie myself, because you can actually look at real pictures of these things now and realize they're not similar, but they're still on tests today. Okay, I've administered these tests. They're still on them. But then you have people like, look at the Java man here. Look at the hair on this guy. They put the hair of a black man and the skin color of a black man because these were white Freemason racist individuals wanting to make it look like black men were more related to these 8-man links than white people. Very racist. So I really find it hard to believe that there's so many people that are buying into this crap. But to each their own. You can believe it. I'm not saying you're dumb for believing it. We've seen lots of evidence of it. But most of this evidence, like the Piltdown Man, was a Hollywood prop. It was a painted bone fragment with the teeth filed down to look more human-like. I mean, it's very, very sad, some of the things and the links they've gone to fool people for generations. The Piltdown Man was 40 years in a museum, and here's the Nebraska Man, beautiful specimen of a man that was made from the tooth of a pig. That's all they had, and they made this Nebraska Man, and it was front page news, and everybody was impressed and oohing and awing. And then you had the Neanderthal, who all these paintings, look at these bone structures. It was old people with rickets and different bone structures, but they're basically human DNA. They're no different than you and I, other than some abnormalities with rickets. And then you have the dino bird here, and this is still looked at as one of the links between dinosaurs and birds, because scales turn into feathers. That's just how it works with mutations. But it was a hoax, and admitted to be a hoax, and National Geographic's admitted that they were sorry for doing that. And then you have this fish here, the coelacanth, that I saw coladograms and many good pictures about, and it was a fish that learned to walk on land and eventually grew feet, arms, and legs and all that. Sadly, they still exist. I was lied to. My childhood was a lie. And then you hear we're 98% chimpanzee, almost 99%. And it's really good math. What's the math? They just cut out the parts that don't match right here, which happens to be 1.3 billion letters. And then guess what? Let's do some math here, people, and look at the remaining letters and say, oh wow, they're 98.77% match. Okay, that's not shady at all. You're just going to exclude this chunk here that we've cut out and this chunk here, and do some math, and then realize that really these evolutionists, or at least 3 out of 1 of them, are bad at fractions. They're horrible. So it's kind of sad, but that's the math that we're exposed to. And then you look at the first cell that appeared 3.8 billion years ago, even though we don't have the cell fossil to prove it. 3.8 billion years ago, and since then 5 billion species have occurred through macroevolution. Very slow process. That's still more than 1 species per year, but most of these species occurred after the dinosaurs, with 700 species of dinosaurs being known. So to find out how many species per year would arise, You do some simple math, and it's around 77 species per year. So definitely not what we thought was slow. Evolution's really fast. We should be studying it with time lapse. But why all the fraud, you say? Why lie about this? Because we do not need to know how loved we are. We're not allowed to talk about creation or how special we are. And you can't convince little people of this if you don't teach it to them at an early age. Okay? But then I started looking at the math of the cells, the statistics here. Okay? Each cell has about 1 billion phospholipids. These phospholipids are only made in the cells. Okay? And what are the chances of 1 billion of these, 3.8 billion years ago, just existing on their own, finding DNA and wrapping around it to make a cell? Self-replicating DNA. There's no chance of that. Okay? DNA is very intricate. We have animations now that show us how awesome creation is, that there is intelligent design behind this. And there's a book that actually has evidence that it's accurate, that's been found and preserved in the Dead Sea Scrolls, that talked about creation. And it talked about an ark, Noah's Ark. And it sounds funny, it sounds comical, they make it seem like such a joke. But the ark was found and verified and is a national park in Turkey. I didn't know this. Okay, this thing has hardly any visitors. It's still there. You can go see it. The measurements are 100% accurate. There are metals used in this thing that we didn't even know mankind had access to back then. And it's a giant megastructure. It is phenomenal. Okay, it's found. We'll leave a link in the description so you can explore this yourself. If you've never heard of it, quite impressive. Okay, and it's still there. You can go visit this thing. Okay, it's still there for now. And there's also evidence of the parting of the Red Sea, and this happened in the book of Exodus. This is where God parted the sea for Moses and the slaves in Egypt who were set free, and they walked right through. And then Pharaoh's people tried to come after them. The chariots were destroyed. It's a really cool movie. If you ever get to watch the old movie, they did a great job back then. But these chariot wheels are still down there, and some of them quite well preserved. The ones that were made out of gold, you can still see the gold on them. It's shiny. There's bone fragments, horse hoofs, lots of different things that have no right being there, unless, of course, these chariots were at the bottom of the ocean when this thing collapsed around them. Okay? Wasn't like they were on top of a frozen sea. Okay, this is salt water here, and it's not a part of the world where it freezes. But you look at this, they're still there. These people found them. Some people were trying to debunk this, and they found evidence that defied their belief. Okay, so here's these wheels. Very nice, very, very symmetrical, and they're still there. I would love to go diving down there and find some of these things. But you're never going to see it on front page news, even though it is groundbreaking discoveries. Okay, and the book that these vents are in, they prophesied about a Messiah, and the rulers of this world knew he was coming. They killed many firstborn children to stop him, but he was born by the grace of God, and he fulfilled these prophecies. And this is one of the biggest things they're doing right now, is trying to erase his existence, pretend that he was a hoax, so that you will not find salvation in the grace and love that is there for you, and you will not burn forever if you reject this love. You can perish. That's the other alternative. Okay? The eternal beings that are causing such mischief, they'll burn forever. We're not. You and I are not eternal unless we have salvation. And evolution is just one of those small little lies, like the shape of our earth, that stops us from finding truth. Okay? Lots of different things. You can find it. We're going to take you on a journey. Of course, hopefully you can see now that there are things hidden from you that you weren't aware of. And it kind of made me angry. And it's put me on a mission to really point you people and brothers and sisters in the right direction. Okay? That's why I started another channel in the first place. This is actually a second channel that I had to start once I got in trouble for bad-mouthing these fake evidence and NASA and other organizations, and scientifically valid organizations like NASA. And so I'm not allowed to question that. So I was told to remove my face from that. So that's why you won't see my face on this channel for now. If I have a new job or something changes, you might. But it's not about me. It's not about us. And we're about to show you why they lie about the shape of our earth in just this next little segment. Okay? So thanks for tuning in. This is part 1 of Why They Lie. We're We're going to have a part 2 here very shortly, but hopefully this clarifies some of the why before we dive into why the whole globe earth deception came into being as well. Okay, so thanks for watching, and tune in to part 2. God bless.
President Business is gonna end the world? But he's such a good guy. And Octan, they make good stuff. Music, dairy products, coffee, TV shows, surveillance systems, all history books, voting machines. Wait a minute.
One of the problems, not specifically on this issue, just in general, let's put it this way: money trumps peace sometimes.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth! You have that luxury. You have the luxury of not knowing what I know.
Hello everyone, welcome back. This is part 2 of Why They Lie. If you haven't seen part 1, you need to stop the video now, go back and watch it before you come to this video. Okay, it will make more sense to you and you'll understand where we're coming from. And to address an issue before we get started of where we're coming from, a lot of you, we've kind of looked at the feedback, are saying, you had me and I was following you until you brought the Bible into this, or you said the word scripture, then you lost me, and you kind of start backing up and you're a little apprehensive. We understand that, and we want to let you know that we are not just religious nutcases here or Bible thumpers that are trying to make the world fit our biblical view. For our whole lives, we've made the Bible fit the worldview, and it wasn't until some miraculous events took place that totally changed our lives. I've shared one of those events that happened 10 years ago in a video called Heartbreak and Suicidal Thoughts. You can watch that and see what happened that kind of changed the way I look at God. And I already knew that evolution was a hoax and could understand that, but there was something different. When you start experiencing things that show you that the world is lying to you about who God is and how much He loves us and how forgiving He is and all that, once you start seeing that, you're like, okay, if they're lying to me about creation and God, what else are they hiding? And something inside of every one of us, or most of us, is telling us that something is off. We're kind of waking up to the evilness and the corruption. But we weren't raised in the church. We don't come from that type of a background where we force our beliefs on anybody. And in reality, we're not allowed to teach what we believe. If I tried to teach what I believe in school, I would get fired rather quickly. Everyone who's a believer knows that. It's a lot better than it used to be. We were burned for trying to teach what people now think is a fairy tale, and it's illegal in many countries, and it's not because it's a fairy tale. But the rulers of this world, they know what would happen if everyone knew what the world is really made like and how it was shaped and that it was designed and all of that. So we're going to get into the why. It's about to get really crazy, I don't want to scare you off if you're afraid of the Bible or it rubs you the wrong way. I don't apologize. I just want you to understand that we're coming from an area where our view of the world has changed, and it's not really just to make it match the Bible. There's a lot of crazy, really super awesome miracles that happened, and miracles that happened back to back that set us where we are. I will share those eventually. I think they need to be shared. It's been on my heart to share them because it really is awesome, and it proved to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are something special and that we are loved. Okay, but to switch gears, talk about the evilness of this world. Here's a man that you need to know about. I will leave the interview in the description. If you don't want to sit through it because it's pretty painful to watch, it's really sad. There's a guy named Ronald Bernard, and if you're a truther, you've probably heard of him. And he was one of those who made it really, really high up on the pyramid. His goal was to make it to the top. He really didn't have a conscience, and he explained that, how he really didn't have a conscience, and he kind of would do things to make his way to the top. He would destroy businesses and hear stories about, the people that he destroyed the business of to kind of make financial gains would kill themselves because they couldn't support their family or whatnot. And it didn't matter because he was one of the elites, and you kind of just put your heart in a freezer, he said. And he would partake, he would get invited to these satanic rituals and these organizations. They would invite him in, these people, and to them he said Lucifer and the devil and all that stuff is real, and they worship him, and they do things, and he thought it was all fun and games, and they would serve liquor and do all these things. It was entertainment, but eventually it got really, really deep, and they wanted him, as he got higher up, to partake in something that has to do with children, and that is child sacrifices in particular. And that's where he drew the line, because he had kids of his own. He started withdrawing from this. His conscience actually kicked in, and it changed him because he witnessed something that would scar hopefully any one of you. And I know you might think the Bible's a fairy tale, but to the ones that rule this world, and he said there's about 8,500 people or so, and he's pretty good with math, so he's probably right, that rule this world. And they don't care about you at all whatsoever. And in order to keep you under control, you have to believe a certain way. Okay? And it'll make sense when we're done with this journey. Hopefully we'll get pretty far on part 2. But it's a rabbit hole that gets deeper and deeper. Okay? I'm just telling you, trying to prepare you. It gets really deep. But your journey with how you see the world started with basically how you see creation. And that's with really good models and pictures. You got hands-on. You were exposed to these things at an early age. You were taught about them. You understood exactly where you were because of the imagery you saw. You're the third little planet from the sun. You have to really understand that they're all spherical. You could see them with a telescope. We can see them. And we are one of those planets. We're just like those spheres that you see in the sky. It makes perfect sense. Everything's jiving. Everything's going good. We don't ask any questions. And we have proof, lots of solid proof, especially the most solid proof comes from the better models that they make. When they can just show them to you and the models get better and the pictures get better, well, they try to get better. But when you're asleep, you don't notice that they're just throwing out anything. And it's when you finally wake up that you realize, holy crap, I've been looking at cartoons and thinking that's where I lived. And it's really crazy. We were looking at stuff with our peripheral vision and didn't even know it. But here's some of the sloppy work they do, and they have to draw these and piece these together from imagery taken high up, and it's basically artwork. And that's why we have global continent change instead of global climate change. We weren't warned about that, but a few years later, the United States is really big now, and we weren't aware of that. But that's what happens when you live on a cartoon ball and your reality is painted in. And I'm going to take you to the very first time we saw Earth from space, and we thought we saw Earth from space. It was very mesmerizing. The whole world was captivated. There was a space race going on, people, and the goal was to show you what Earth looks like and prove that Christopher Columbus, our hero who destroyed the Native Americans and all of that, was correct, that the earth was round, he didn't fall off the edge. That's the part that gets ingrained in our minds, that there's some edge that water's falling off of. And he didn't fall off that edge. He went in a circle around this globe, and that's what it looks like. But sadly, this is not the globe Earth. This is just looking through a circular window like the one you see on the right, and they put a little insert at the bottom to represent the Terminator line. They were caught doing that. That video evidence is out there. I'm not going to go in depth on that. You can research that yourself. But looking at this picture and asking for wisdom, sometimes things are shown to you. And this little picture here of Earth, where the clouds take up the entire Earth, and especially over here, kind of crazy, looked familiar when I was looking at the Rob Skiba video, where he made a box appear around the Earth by adjusting the levels in a picture similar to this one. So I took the picture from the Apollo 11 spacecraft window and I shrunk it down. It's an exact match. Okay, you can't tell me which one of these Earths is the real Earth. Okay, it's very deceptive, but they cut and pasted it in there, and that was the first time we saw Earth. We had to see it that way. There's nothing left to see on this round ball Earth, and this isn't a deception that started in the 1900s or the 1800s or the 1500s. This is something that goes beyond that. You have to understand how the powers of darkness work, and I know biblical scriptures kind of scares a lot of you away, so I'm not going to read a prophecy from the Bible. Okay, I'm actually going to read something here in just a little bit that blew my mind, and it has to do with the heliocentric model, and it was part of a plan that's thousands of years old. And here you have the people that came up with this model. Here's Copernicus. We're told these people are super geniuses and super smart. There were no IQ tests. Here he is back when Copernicus had a perm. He's one of the first people credited for creating this model. They were all Freemasons, similar to the evolutionists. And they always had their little compass tool, all their little Freemason tools. I'm guessing since the Earth is spherical, having the compass, you can draw circles, and you could make the globe pretty easy with those tools. So there he is drawing his first globe. And he got his hair straightened for this particular picture. You kind of wonder, were these people even real? Or did they just throw them into our history books? So they didn't have cameras back then. You can just make up anything. But Copernicus here didn't even have a telescope. Pretty much just went and looked at the stars. Figured out the Earth is round from looking at the stars, watching the sun go down. Pretty easy, pretty cut and dry. But the prophecy here that blew my mind, because I did not know there was a heliocentric model prophecy, happened in the book of Enoch, which is not in the Bible. It was taken out of the Bible at the exact time that this guy was coming up with the heliocentric model. And it all makes sense when you hear this prophecy, okay? Because the book of Enoch, if you're not familiar with it, actually tells you how the stars work, how the seasons work, how the moon and the sun work, how all these things work. And there is a prophecy that happens after it explains all of this. It says it tells them to keep these understandings of how they work. But then it says this, and many chiefs of the stars shall transgress the order prescribed, and these shall alter their orbits and tasks. Okay, the chief stars. This is talking about the planets. And it says, and not appear at the seasons prescribed to them, because remember, stars are for signs and for seasons. And the whole order of the stars shall be concealed from the sinners, which is us, and the thoughts of those on the earth shall err concerning them. As in, we think the stars up above are just distant suns light years away. That's what we think they are. Okay? And it says, and they shall be altered from all their ways. Yea, they shall err and take them to be gods, and evil shall be multiplied upon them. Okay? Crazy fact. All of the planets are named after gods, except for Earth. Holy cow, we've literally done exactly what that prophecy said. We do not understand the stars at all. We think that the sun is a star, okay? We think that the stars are just distant suns. We have lost our understanding. We've been under a delusion, okay? And God has allowed it to happen. It says in 2 Thessalonians in the Bible that he's going to allow that delusion to happen so that the people who love truth won't be deceived. Okay? So love truth, look for truth. I know it's easy to get turned off by this movement and think it's a bunch of religious people. Okay? And here I am throwing out some stuff from the Book of Enoch, which was removed from the Bible, but it was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls as part of the Bible thousands of years ago. Okay, so it was with the Bible and the Dead Sea Scrolls. My wife's bought that so I can actually read those texts, which is pretty cool. Look forward to that. But it's kind of crazy. These are some of the things you figure out once you're trying to understand why are they lying to us about the earth? Why is it so important? What's so significant about this lie? But it has to be a part of their equation to control the world. You have to lie to the world about what it is. Okay, so the lie and the rabbit hole gets deeper and deeper the more you dig. Okay, so you look into this and you get a general understanding of the flat earth model, and you think, okay, it's got some holes in it or whatever. I don't buy into a particular model just yet. I don't want to be deceived again, and I know there's some fake flat earth organizations, and I'm pretty sure they could be putting out some fake maps, but there's a lot of different ideas of what it looks like. Some say it looks like the United Nations flag, which makes a lot of sense, because the United Nations formed after the Antarctic Treaty and all that, and the fake space race. Okay, but the space race was never really a race to the moon. It was actually a race to prove the ball Earth, and we always thought, most of us who understand, hopefully most of you understand, the moon landings were faked. Okay, if not, we've got some videos to prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. But the moon landings were faked. Okay, and there was no real race to the moon whatsoever, and all of the world powers are in on it. Okay, the elites, the ones that all are part of the Antarctic Treaty, and that's where the rabbit hole starts getting really deep, is in Antarctica and what's beyond Antarctica, and why all of the world powers agreed to share that stretch of land. Okay, they all did at the exact same time. It has to do with this man here, Admiral Byrd. He played a big part in that. Okay, so this happened at the exact same time, around 1958, was right after the Antarctic Treaty, is when NASA formed and the space races started getting underway, and everyone was guarding Antarctica, because there's something special about Antarctica that we're going to find out in part 3. So stay tuned. We hope we haven't scared too many of you away. It's about to make a lot more sense. There is so much to cover with this topic, and we really thank you guys for spreading truth, being kind, asking questions, understanding that what other people have experienced is different than what you have experienced, and their worldview is based on their upbringing, their background, and we all have different minds, so we need to work together. Don't be mean to people who believe in the globe. If I have insulted anyone who believes in the globe in any way, I apologize. It was not intentional, and especially, people like NASA. I am aware that there are tons of great scientists. Not everyone at NASA is evil. Okay, there are really good scientists that work there, really good artists, and every space program has many of good scientists. And we're not going to go far out and say that there are no satellites and everything like that. We have a playlist that you can check out to see how they get satellites up there and how they stay up there for a while until they come back down to Earth, eventually crashing down sometimes. But there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of answers out there, so we appreciate you guys being patient. It's a long journey. It's not simple to undo a lot of the damage that's been done, and many people will say that we are an example of a failed education system, and I am thankful that it did not succeed in my case, and you will be too if it fails you as well, and I hope it does. Okay, and I mean that in the best way possible. But we love you guys. Hopefully we'll see you around. If not, it's been fun. Thanks for stopping by. God bless. Hello everyone, welcome back. This is part 3 of Why They Lie, and if you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, you need to go watch them now. And if you have seen them, thanks for coming back. We're glad you're here. We've missed you. Sorry for taking so long, but wanted to put a lot of work into this so everything would make sense to you. Now, before we get started, I do want to share a video with you. I'm not going to play the video all the way through. I just wanted to share it with you so that you can watch it if you're interested. It explains a lot of the past deceptions that led to the current condition we are in now, with the globe model being worldwide, all across the globe, the cartoon ball. And it all happened centuries ago. Like we said, there was a prophecy about it, that it was going to happen, and it happened just like the prophecy said. And it has a lot to do with the history lesson you learned in this video. It's a connection that connects the Jesuits with the Pythagoreans, with Pythagoras, Copernicus, Tycho, Kepler, Galileo, Einstein, etc. And it's really good imagery, really good narration. I suggest watching it probably before you watch this video, but if you're not patient, you can just watch this video and then go back to it. You guys are smart. You probably know a lot of this history just from the history you learned in school, but this gives a lot of the missing parts, okay? Makes everything make a lot of sense. So I suggest you watch it. Again, it's on the MigMag channel. I'll leave a link in the description for you. So I hope that helps you guys out if you're researching this and really interested. But we're gonna go back now where we left off in the last video, and that's talking about a man named Admiral Byrd. Okay, so here he is right here giving an interview, and he puts out some important information about Antarctica. He's very vague. He tries not to say too much, and you can tell from his body language at times he's rather uncomfortable. And he's someone who kind of, says some things about Antarctica that I wasn't aware of, and makes you kind of get intrigued by Antarctica. And the more you dig, the more you find out there was some crazy stuff that will turn pretty much anybody into a conspiracy theorist and make you want to go there and find the edge of the earth. Okay, so listen to what he has to say. We've condensed it down and sped it up a little bit so that you can hear the important parts and understand what's going on before we move into the really crazy deep stuff about Antarctica. Okay, so listen to him and take some notes.
Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
Well, it's a tremendous
So
challenge.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world. So I'm willing to say to you that there will be a number of expeditions that will follow, I think, year after year, at the bottom of the world, because the government has really become interested.
Why this interest in the bottom of the world? Nobody living down there, is there?
No, it's pretty cold. There's only one permanent resident, that's the emperor penguin. The little ones live further north. I tell you one reason they're interested. It's by far the most valuable, important place left in the world for science. That's why the scientific groups all over the nation are really interested. But more important than that, it has to do with the future of the nation, those to come after us, or even during your lifetime. Because it happens to be an untouched reservoir of natural resources. And, as the world shrinks with an ever-increasing acceleration, far-flung places, once useless, like we thought the North Pole was, and no man's land, become very useful. The bottom of the world will be important, not only to us, but to our allies. No woman's ever stepped foot upon the Antarctic continent, and it's the most peaceful place in the world.
Well, I'm sure that won't last very long.
Admiral, you speak of the resources of Antarctica. What are they? What are the natural resources there?
Well, we've found enough of coal within 180 miles of the South Pole in a great ridge of mountains. It's not covered with snow, enough to supply the whole world for quite a while.
Well,
that's the coal. Now, there's evidence of many other minerals. We are pretty sure there's oil. Now, that coal shows the bottom of the well. Now, by far the coldest spot in the world. Where that coal is gets 100 below zero in the winter.
well,
It was once tropical. So we think there's oil there, and there's evidence, probably uranium there.
is it any secret? Is there uranium there? That would be the only thing that would be practical to actually go after, I suppose. Everything else would be economically unfeasible, wouldn't it?
Well, as we recklessly expend our resources, the time will come when we'll have to go after that stuff down there.
Well,
You know, I avoided what you said about uranium. I'm not sure about that. I don't want to have the world fighting over the Antarctica.
And Robert, is there a competition among other nations to try to get information about Antarctica and possibly to secure some of these resources?
Well, yes. There are now 7 nations very much interested. Well, you know, as I said, it's the most peaceful place in the world, but I don't think it will be for long. Because of this intense interest on the part of other nations and this nation.
Well, Admiral Byrd, are private expeditions a thing of the past? Is expedition and exploration, making expedition and exploration now purely a government function because of the tremendous
No, I
cost and
don't think
organization?
so. I think down south, it may be more or less a thing of the past. But not other expeditions that go. There's a lot of them going off now.
This latest expedition now on the way is a government expedition, I take it.
Yes, that's the government.
Admiral Byrd, may I ask you, is there a great difference between the top of the world and the bottom of the world?
There is. Now, the North Pole is the center of an ocean 10,000 feet deep. The South Pole, the center of a plateau, 10,000 feet high.
Wow. So a lot of cool things covered by Admiral Byrd here. And if you want to watch the full interview, we'll have it linked in the description. But this guy just gave us some really good information about the resources involved with this place and how it's not going to be peaceful for much longer, which surprisingly, the most peaceful treaty we've ever had in the history of the world occurred with these world powers pretty much guarding Antarctica, making sure it's safe for science because of the penguins and ice. They want to study them all the time around the clock. And so that's what happened. We have your first scientific peaceful treaty, and it's still in effect today. Okay? But after this man, Admiral Byrd, dies, some really conspiracy theory type stuff starts happening, and then NASA forms, and it's really crazy. We're about to get into that in just a second. But you noticed he said during the video probably 12, 13 times, the bottom of the world, and he kept repeating that, so you would understand it's at the bottom of the globe and there's nothing left to see. And I don't think they found the bottom of the world. I believe they found something different. But there was a lot of operations he was a part of. Operation High Jump, because of course you have to get over the ice wall. Okay, followed by Operation Deep Freeze. And the Flat Earth map, of course, always usually has an ice wall around it, or some sort of circle, kind of like the Bible says, the circle of the earth. And what's beyond that is what most of us believe to be the firmament and where it meets the earth. Not exactly an edge that you can fall off of like they have in the famous pictures that you saw in your history books, or the ones floating around on YouTube. Anytime you look up flat earth, they just see a disc. That's not the shape of the earth at all. And the earth has a foundation, you know, it's got a firmament, lots of different things. But I'm not too sure about what's beyond Antarctica. There could be more land, okay? Really have no clue. There's lots of different maps floating around with things beyond Antarctica and claims of finding really old maps that have continents beyond it. Could be lots of resources out there. They could be hiding a lot more, but I really don't know. But either way, there is a large ice wall, and they did explore beyond it, and what they found caused them to do some really crazy things immediately after the death of Admiral Byrd. So let's look at what someone has to say. His name is Rob Skiba. If you've never heard of him, here is his website called testingtheglobe.com. It's a really cool website where he breaks down a lot of his research and findings, but he's got a YouTube channel. He was a biblical scholar at one point, not wanting to prove the earth was flat. He's looking for the curve and ends up becoming one of us crazy people wearing the tinfoil hats. But really, really good guy, really unbiased, but has uncovered some really cool things, especially about these operations in Antarctica and how they really kind of reveal that they discovered that the Bible was true and that there was a firmament. So pay attention to the stuff he has to say. He does a really good breakdown of this, and it's pretty cool information if you weren't aware of it. So pay attention and take some notes.
Okay, let's put the chronology here. You got, again, Operation High Jump 46 through 47, Operation Deep Freeze 55 to 56. He dies in 57. NASA's formed in 1958. Then after Operation Deep Freeze and whatever weirdness took place down there, everybody leaves Antarctica, and they go and form this Antarctic Treaty and put that into place in 1961. The original signatories were the 12 countries active in Antarctica during the International Geophysical Year 1957 to 58. These countries had established over 50 Antarctic stations for the International Geophysical Year. Something happened down there after Operation Deep Freeze, and presumably about the time that Admiral Byrd died. So all these nations that I just talked about here, they leave there, they come back, they sign this Antarctic Treaty. At the same time, NASA is formed, and right away, the United States and Russia start launching high-altitude nuclear bombs in the atmosphere. If they're trying to avoid a conspiracy, they're not helping with the names. You've heard me say it before. I'm going to say it again. You know, you got Operation High Jump, Operation Deep Freeze. NASA's formed, they signed this Antarctic Treaty, and then when you look at the high-altitude nuclear bomb tests, the Thor missile was also used to lift warheads into near space to conduct high-altitude nuclear explosion tests. These shots were collectively called Operation Fishbowl. A series of high-altitude nuclear tests in 1962 that were carried out by the United States as part of the larger Operation Dominic nuclear test program. Now, with the tinfoil hat on, playing conspiracy theory here, the flat earthers are claiming, and I think it's a reasonable claim, that, you know, if that model is true, then we know we have a circle, the circle of the earth as described in the Bible, surrounded by Antarctica, the outer rim, that has a 200 or 300 foot ice wall, cliff, that keeps everything in, hence Operation High Jump. You got to get over that, right? So it looks like, at least from the flat earther perspective, that probably during Operation Deep Freeze, they may have found the edge of the dome, presumably anywhere from 800 to 1,200 miles inland from the coast. Then everybody pulls out, signs this treaty, says nobody can go back except under the express guidelines of the international community that signed the treaty. So then all of a sudden the United States and Russia engaged in these high-altitude nuclear tests, and the United States calls theirs Operation Dominic, within which we have Operation Fishbowl. So it appears that whatever happened in Antarctica, everybody got kind of maybe nervous or excited or whatever and said, okay, what is the deal? Our assumption is the solar system is, you know, set up in the Copernican model, and but yet maybe they found a dome and they started to question all that. So the first thing they do is send out probes to go, wait a minute, what in the world? If we're in a dome, how high does this thing go? So they start launching high altitude nuclear bombs. And if you look at the videos on Operation Fishbowl and Starfish Prime and all those high altitude tests, I mean, it looks like they're hitting something up there. I mean, at least from a conspiratorial tinfoil hat wearing perspective, that's what it looks like. Now, this is what blew my mind. So, you know, you talk about Operation Fishbowl, but check this out. I'm going to take you to, I'll put the screen share back up here. Take you to a one of those name websites. I like using behindthename.com. Look up the name Dominic, and again, just double check it here. Dominic, D-O-M-I-N-I-C. Look up Dominic, D-O-M-I-N-I-C, from the late Latin name Dominicus, meaning of the Lord. Fishbowl is part of Operation Dominic. It looks like they are sending high-altitude nuclear bombs to test the fishbowl of the Lord, i.e. the firmament. Yeah, this is definitely one of those things to make you go,
Although we weren't able to shatter that highest, hardest glass ceiling this time, thanks to you, it's got about 18 million cracks in it.
The pitcher, steroid Santa Claus, kicks and deals. It's a long fly ball going back, and the ball shatters the sky, bringing the ocean itself down into the stadium. Oh, Simpson just broke this dream's reality wide open.
Well, guys, I know this has been a crazy, fast-paced little adventure on this part 3, and I'm sorry for that, but I just really wanted to answer some questions, pique your interest a little bit, so that you'll do some digging. Many of you think that, hey, anybody can go to Antarctica, it's easy to explore, and we should be able to have a picture of the edge if there is one, and that's some really good questions too. Okay, so if you're interested in that, there's a really good video here that breaks down the Antarctic Treaty, why we can't do the whole picture of the edge scenario, and it's very easy to understand. You just need to understand how the treaty works. If you've never read it, it's quite odd that it did form with the conditions it formed with all of these countries sharing land for the first time ever, peacefully and for science, you know, and this was before the global warming days. So you need to understand that we weren't worried about this stuff melting and all of that. So it's really cool. Taboo Conspiracy is the ones that put this together. That's been floating around on the internet. People are uploading it like crazy because it's a really good video. But you can watch it. I haven't watched the whole video because I kind of understand the premise behind it. And but if you're interested and you really want to see why we can't go see the edge, other than the fact that it cost an arm and a leg, about $40,000 or more last time I checked, because I really actually wanted to go there, and I have summers off, so it'd have been perfect. It'd have been cool, but I don't have that kind of money. And Bill Nye challenged us to go to the edge, to drive a car to the edge, as a matter of fact. So I tried. It went in the ocean, but you know, it would be fine and dandy. I would go to the edge in a heartbeat if I had the protection and I wouldn't end up vanishing and dying like the people that have tried before me who have gone on private expeditions. Okay, and they had yachts and all those cool things and resources that I didn't have. So I would love to go there. Of course, we're all intrigued by it. It's kind of like the Truman Show movie where he runs into the edge. Once you kind of know it's there, you're obsessed with it. And try not to get too obsessed and sound too crazy. It's a lot to take in. And the crazy thing is that the Bible is true, God's word is true, and we are safe from aliens or anything like that on either model, but especially the fact that we are protected, we are special, we are unique, we are a beloved creation, we are one of a kind, and that's why I'm here. It's not to be famous and be well known. I want God's word to be known and His truth to be seen, and I want you to find that love that is unspeakable, full of joy, something that I've experienced, and I hope and pray that you guys can. It's something really awesome, and it's so great. You can't explain it. It's unspeakable joy, and that's the best way to sum it up. And I hope you guys are doing good. Everything's going great for you. Thanks for tuning in to part 3. I think this will be the last one, unless you guys want something else, but I think this will be the last one of this series of why they lie. There are a lot more reasons to why they lie, but I wanted this to be short and as simple as possible. Okay, so thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you're doing good. As always, God bless.